All right, guys, I have something I have not actually made yet, and don't ask me how that's possible. It just is, but it's a twist on a recipe we use all the time. So at the same time, I am showing you guys a classic recipe that we use all the time. What are we making? Baking powder biscuits. There's my recipe card. I will also type this out in the description down below. So if you didn't pause it and catch that, that is quite all right. Now, how am I twisting this up and making it a little different? I'm making them gluten-free today. I always use the all-purpose flour. This is what we use when we make biscuits and gravy. I make homemade biscuits every single time. It's what we like. They're good that way. And there's something about a fully home-cooked meal. So today, though, I'm making a gluten-free version so I can eat them. Usually what we do is I make our gravy with the gluten-free flour, so that way that's safe in that sense, but I then use some separate bread that I have or something, I toast it and have the gravy over that instead of the biscuits with everybody else. And to clear up any confusion, no, we do not have a dedicated gluten-free house or kitchen. Because I don't have celiacs or anything like that that requires truly gluten-free, what I have is a wheat allergy, which works very differently than gluten issues. Similar, but different. So I can use a lot of gluten-free products. Makes that a little bit easier because they exist so readily. All right, critical things you guys are gonna need. You're gonna need a bowl to mix things. You're gonna need some baking powder. Clabber Girl is what's easiest to find around here, unless you want the store brand, and well, that's something that our family's always had and used. You need some salt, butter, milk, and gluten-free flour. Now, yep, I got this in a giant mason jar that I like to keep it stored in. What it actually is, though, I have an extra bag here, is the Namaste Perfect Flour Blend. I purchased this at Costco. I do know that you can buy it other places. The other tool you're going to need is a spoon of some form and something to cut your butter with. I just dug in there to get out my masher and forgot to grab my spatula, which I used as a spoon to stir. Now, why a masher? This is what I have. When you're cutting the butter in, so let me explain that really quick. You can actually use a pastry knife if you have one, or a pastry cutter. Sharper edges, kind of similar to this, a little different. You can use literal butter knives and cut it up. While it's in the flour mix, you're just gonna dice it up. I have found I like this because of the way it also kind of squishes and spreads the butter more thoroughly throughout. You're gonna do it until it's all pea-sized chunks, but I'll explain that in a minute. All right, so first thing first, I'm gonna start adding these ingredients. I'm gonna get them measured out so then I can just dump them in while you guys are looking. Okay guys, I'm gonna go ahead and start dumping stuff into my bowl here. I've got my oven preheating to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. I've got 1 cup measured out so far of the flour. I'm going to do 2 cups there. Now I do like to tap in my measuring cup to make sure that there's no air pockets or anything forming, so that I get a full true cup. Got that leveled off. I use the back side of a butter knife because it's nice and flat. Level that off, dump it in. Okay, so I've got 2 cups in the bowl now. Next up is a tablespoon. Good grief, you'd think I haven't done this before. Tablespoon of baking powder. Now if your knife is clean enough, which I'm wiping it off, you can use it to level off your baking powder too. I know you guys can't see me measuring it out, but there's my baking powder. Knock off there. And then we're going to do half a teaspoon of salt. Now I do have one of the pour containers up in the cupboard of salt that I usually use for baking, but this was at the front of the cupboard and it's what I grabbed. It's what we've been using at mealtime and stuff since our Celtic sea salt had well, let's just say I ran into an ordering issue. So I got half a teaspoon of salt going right in there. Now that I've got all my dry ingredients in there, I'm going to go ahead and use my little beater here, or my masher, and I'm just going to stir those together. Kind of doubles like a whisk. I could use my spatula for this too, whichever, doesn't really matter. But since this kind of acts like a whisk, that's what I do. Okay, and yes, I'm using my cooking tray that I will cook these biscuits on as just a place to keep all my stuff. Now that I have all my dry ingredients, I'm going to go ahead. I've had my butter sitting on the counter for a while now, so it's a bit softened. I'm going to go ahead and measure out half a cup, which is 4 tablespoons. Sorry, not half a cup, quarter cup. Read what I wrote, not what I said. Okay, I just dropped that right on in there. I've got 2 tablespoons left on the stick that I will set aside for something else now. Okay, got my butter down in there. This is where the fun happens. Let me put my lid back on my flour. And take that masher, and I'm literally just going to start cutting into that butter. Okay, super awkward holding it like this, so I'm going to stand back and just do this on my stovetop really quick. Really quick for reference, I don't normally do this on my stovetop. I do it on my countertop. But I've got my camera. I've got you guys sitting on my countertop. So I'm utilizing my stovetop for now. All right, guys. Let's see if you can see that there. All those little round clumps, that is the butter that I have mashed up. Now, while I was doing it, I don't know if you guys can see it because I probably sped it up or cut it out, not really sure. As I'm mashing, I will scrape along to make sure that there's no butter chunks being completely smashed against the bottom and getting left behind or lost. Okay, so now that we have this much done, we have our butter in there. The only ingredient left is our milk. Now, since I am just making a single batch of biscuits, which requires 1 cup. I'm using the same cup I measured the flour with. Doesn't hurt anything because this is flour in the bowl. We're going to measure out 1 cup. We're going to pour it in. Alright, so all my other utensils aside, now is when I use my spatula to stir in that milk. Now guys, when I make this for my biscuits and gravy, for our family, we typically quadruple the recipe. Make about 48 biscuits. A single batch is supposed to make about 12 biscuits. It all depends on the size that you make them out to be. Can be more, can be less, just depends. Now keep in mind though, when you adjust the size of them, you may need to adjust the cooking time. If they're bigger, they may take a little bit more. And you're going to have to watch to make sure they're not burning on the edges and raw in the middle. You make them smaller, you're probably not going to need as long to cook. Alright guys, this dough is looking ready. It's a little dry. That's okay. I learned years ago, I used to kind of mix half of this with my hands. I don't do that anymore. I've learned to keep my hands clean. I mix with this. I'm going to grab another spoon that I'm going to measure out with that I will then use to clean things off. Keeps my hands out of it. Alright, cleaning off the spatula. We're still going to use it, so don't drop it in your sink yet. Now if that dough is looking a little dry for you, you can add just a skosh more milk. That's okay. And because I'm using gluten-free flour this time and I don't know how this is going to turn out. So we're going to find out. I am going to tilt you guys down a little bit farther though, so I can show you exactly what I'm doing. Sorry, you get to see my microwave right there. Okay, so I grab a scoop with my spoon, I drop it on the pan. this is really dry. Normally I would go ahead and add some more milk to this. I'm not going to, just because I haven't made with gluten-free flour before. I don't know how it's going to bake up. But this does mean I'm going to get my hands into this because I'm going to have to pack these together a little bit. You want to be careful though not to pack them too much because they will cook that way. These don't super bake up and you don't want crazy dense biscuits. Bless you. Okay guys, I got 12 of them measured out. Let me wash the bit off my hands really quick. Okay guys, I'm gonna go ahead and throw these in the oven. Normally I do it for 12 minutes. I'm gonna do these ones for 10 minutes because it's a gluten-free flour and they seem really dry. Let me throw them in and I'm gonna talk to you guys about this for a sec. Okay guys, so I just got those in the oven. Normally I would do 12 minutes. I'm doing 10. They're a little smaller. Normally make them a little bigger when I make biscuits and gravy for everybody. Before these come out and I give a final review, since I haven't made these before, I want to go ahead and give a disclaimer. If you make this biscuit recipe with all-purpose flour, this is our go-to recipe. We do love it. I'm a little afraid these are not going to turn out well, and then I'm going to scare you guys away from using this recipe. I'm going to have to record a whole separate one of doing them with regular flour just to show you guys they are actually good and that my family loves them. Now, all of that said, we're going to let these cook. I'm only doing 10 minutes so I can check them, see how they are. I will put them in for the additional 2 minutes if it looks like they need them, but I just have a feeling they're going to be done in about that time frame. I've already told you guys we quadruple these when we make them with the biscuits and gravy. When I'm making them, several of the kids will come through and ask to snag one. They'll throw some butter, some jelly on it. You can do butter and honey, any sort of thing like that. But this is just something we like. I am happy to share these recipes with you guys. And yeah, so let's finish cooking these. I'll show you guys them coming out. Okay guys, I was gonna pull them out at 10 minutes. They're not done. They need 2 more. Well guys, after an additional 2 minutes, this is as good as they're gonna get. They're a little bit golden around some of the edges, which is as they should be. They look incredibly dry. I'm holding out low hopes for these. Guys, these are super piping hot. I'm going to give them a few minutes to cool enough that they can be handled and broken into. Don't really feel like burning myself, especially, man, I'm really disappointed. I was telling Emmy right after I put them in that I should have added more milk. The hard part about that is when you've mixed it enough, it can be difficult to incorporate more liquids into it. That's when you really get your hands into it. I haven't had to do that in so long. I just don't do it anymore. I was really hoping I could just kind of get by. And I made a mistake. Now I'm hoping that these taste better than they look. I'm sure they're going to taste like biscuits. They're just going to be incredibly dry. So I will try those. But while we're waiting for those to cool off, I do want to tell you guys that if you make this recipe, because these are all fresh ingredients and there's so few ingredients, there's no preservatives. These are going to be great the first day. They're going to start getting a little dry the second day. Obviously, I'm talking about the regular ones, not these already dried out gluten-free ones. After that, by the time you hit 3 days and on, you run the risk of them starting to grow mold. Because they just don't last that long. You leave them sitting out on the counter. Now, you could probably throw them in the fridge and have them last longer. In my experience, though, when you refrigerate biscuits like this, they actually get drier even. So take that as you will. Do what you want with it. I don't think that these are cooled off enough by any means, but I picked one up here. Let's see if you guys can see that. Looking a little dry. It looks like I squeezed it together like a clump of Play-Doh. That's the inside. Whoo, that is piping hot. Every now and then I get disappointed in my own cooking. That's okay. Oh, they are just falling apart, which makes them great for biscuits and gravy. I'm gonna need some butter. Okay guys, I have my own dedicated tub of butter. It says Mom's on it. Don't know if you can see that. It's written in Sharpie. So that the kids don't end up getting breadcrumbs and stuff in it. So I've got my butter here. I'll put some on it. The Namaste flour is normally very good for swapping over. It's like a 1-to-1 ratio. You just use it in place of all-purpose. Typically it works out really well. This one I think is a fail. I will try this again at some point with more milk. I have no doubt it'll probably actually turn out okay then. These, well, this is just what happens in general when you don't have enough liquid in your biscuit mix. I'm not gonna lie, guys. These are pretty gross. Well, happy cooking to you. I hope yours turn out better than mine did. Let me know if you try this while fixing the mistakes that I made and how yours turned out. In the meantime, I hope you guys are having a blessed day. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss everything else coming up next. I'll see you in the next one.